Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lions Den podcast, another Monday Night Futbol. We're here to talk about everything that happened in Leon's latest match versus Queretaro. Very chaotic match. So, in the end, Leon ended up winning. So, it's Victory Monday. So, we're here to talk about everything that happened and also previewing versus Pumas. We're still waiting on two of our people. We're going to go ahead and get started. As you can see, we're not alone because we have Tom Marshall, guest tonight. Tom, how are we feeling?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, just all good. All good, I suppose. I'm missing going to games a lot, but I mean, obviously just watching them on TV these days.
Definitely. It's been a switch for real. Even just when the goals score and there's no one in the stadium, it's like so lonely, But you joined us at a good time because we're happy. So we're still gonna talk about the realism of what's in Leon, but it's a happy Monday. So, Carlos, Louis, are we ready tonight?
Ready as we'll ever be.
Let's do
it. Let's do it. So let's go ahead and jump in. Carlos, are you ready to give us the club team news prior to this match?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's.
All right, guys. So 3 major headlines going into Querétaro. First one, Andres Mosquera still out, recovering from back complications. We may have to wait until match day 11 or 12 to see him reappear on the roster. It's kind of sad after he had just came back from an injury to see him go down again. Secondly, just a quick stat on Leon. We had the best defense going into Querétaro and no straight reds up to that point. Still no straight reds. And then the big news for the weekend, which had us all puzzled, Meneses and Campbell were left off of the roster. And I don't think any of us knew why until it was confirmed after the match by Nacho Ambriz. He said that it was just a tactical decision, which I think is just another way to say they haven't been producing. So I guess, that was the biggest surprise for the weekend. And onto the starting lineup, we had Rodolfo Cota on goal, and then we had Jairo Moreno, Steven Barreiro, William Tecillo, and Navarro as our backline. We had Montes, Aquino, Mena, and Avion Ramirez in the midfield, and then up front we had Sosa and Gigliotti. So the only substitution from the ideal starting 11 that we normally have was Avion Ramirez, which is okay because he played a really, really good match. But so what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it wasn't COVID related, I guess they probably would have said if there were COVID cases. But as long as it wasn't COVID related, I'm perfectly fine with leaving out Meneses and Campbell as a tactical decision. It's absolutely true that they haven't been producing, and Avion, he seemed to have lost a little bit of Ambriz's confidence lately, but he'd been playing really well up until that point, so it was good to see him back. I thought he played okay. I wouldn't say he had a great match. He was kind of a step slow on like he didn't understand where the passes were coming from a lot of the time. But he certainly wasn't a net negative. I thought he played. I mean, he played a solid. He played solid minutes, and I was happy to see him back out there. And rest of the lineup, same as usual. Again, I've been happy to see that they've been getting that consistency. That they've been getting a lot of guys getting minutes together and growing together and getting comfortable playing together. And so, yeah, it was a good lineup for me.
Yeah. Tom, since you're coming from a different, non-bias per se, but talk to me about how you view Leon from last season to this season to that game. Like, what do you think has been different? In your words, what do you think Leon is, in a good standing right now, or do you see some differences?
No, yeah, obviously a couple of changes in the starting 11. You mentioned Avion Ramirez there, who was low profile signing really. I mean, I think before the season, I don't think people would have expected him to have got so minutes, and now like you guys were saying, he's deserved them because he's been absolutely superb. I think Gigliotti as well. Obviously, bringing in a new striker changes the way you play. You got Nick Killer. I think Nacho Ambriz has slightly modified the formation as well, so you've got like two proper number 9s now, rather than have a player behind in kind of a number 10 role. But what I would say with Meneses and Joel Campbell out like that, I think if you look at the Leon bench over the weekend, it was short. I mean, if Nacho Ambriz wanted options off the bench, they just weren't there. Obviously Godinez is he's not ideal, to come and kind of rescue a game. But I think that if you look at the other top teams in Liga MX right now, I think one of the things that defines them is that strength in depth of the bench. That the Cruz Azuls, even the Pumas. More and more now, Pumas have got better strength in depth in America, and I think Leon. We'll see what happens with those two, because I think it's a massive risk for Nacho Ambriz as well to come out and state that, because he's kind of calling him out. I mean, we don't know what's happening, but guaranteed something has happened there. It's not like you don't leave both of those players out for a tactical decision. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Of course, you're going to want him on the bench minimum. So I think it's a risk for Nacho Ambriz, and I'm sure he'll kind of, he'll be wanting a reaction when they kind of do come back into the fold, and obviously next weekend against the league leaders. So yeah, I think Leon. Where we saw them in the first half of 2020, and where we saw them in 2019, like they're one of the top teams right now. And I think that I think that's what we've seen so far this season. Obviously, there's certain things to refine, but it's been a weird season with the COVID cases. Leon have had, I think it's 5 cases, and you don't know who's in and who's out, and it's been a difficult season. So I think Leon have obviously done well to be inside that top 4.
Yeah, I think what you say about Avion being a low-profile signing, we were not excited about him when he was announced. None of us were, and we were very excited about Campbell staying on. I mean, he had been a major figure in our success under Ambriz, and their production has kind of been the opposite of expected. Avion has been very serviceable, and Campbell has been practically invisible. And so, yeah, but you're absolutely right. Our bench is shallow, completely very risky to leave those guys off. But they also weren't producing. Meneses is just, I mean, he's been El Piston. He has been our workhorse, and he just doesn't have it. So I think leaving him out for one match day was, luckily in terms of the table and points, we didn't. The person who ended up rescuing the match was already on the field, so we didn't need our bench in this particular instance. But you're absolutely right. That depth is an issue moving forward. We need those two. Like, if they're not going to be in a starting lineup, they're going to at least have to produce off the bench in order for us to have the kind of success we want moving forward.
Yeah. Now, the other one that
Go on.
I was just going to ask you guys, like Nick Killer, the FIFA legend. I mean, do you guys? I don't know. I've still got my doubts whether he's like a top number 9 and good enough to be starting for a top Liga MX team. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Javier.
Okay, I want to answer that because it's one of those things that last time I was watching the Tigres game with Louis, and we were seeing that maybe he's not scoring, and he's the number 9. You kind of want him to score. Pero hace mucho sacrificio. He does do a lot of things for the team. He does remind me of Matias Britos. And I think right now the reason why we're kind of like, oh, he's not the legend that we thought he was gonna be, like in the in the Liga. Yeah, I think that was the bad thing, that we all thought after that he was gonna be playing exactly and scoring exactly like he did in the video games. But I think su funcionamiento is a little different in León, and I do think, because when he left yesterday's game, I was like, I'm not mad at him. He did a lot. It's like a combination of like bad luck or something. I don't know. Like, he had a good header, and Portero was just better at that. But I do think he does a lot of sacrificios, and reminds me a lot about like a lot of Britos, otro uruguayo. But yeah, it is kind of like you do want him to score. Same thing about Meneses and maybe Campbell. You kind of you ask more of them, but as long as he's bajando, and doing all the things that he's asked to do, except for scoring. But other than that, like, yeah, I definitely think that I kind of want him to score, but it's not easy. For
I mean, I
all
think
of
we've
Leon, it's not
mentioned
easy.
it. Well, I think we've mentioned in the past podcast that
Can you guys hear me all right?
Nikile, yes, we can hear you.
We got you.
Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
Oh my God! Again,
we mentioned in past
I can
podcasts
hear
that
everybody, but not Kari. It's always happens to me. Why?
He's not a number 9.
She's talking, bro. She's talking.
Carlos, you know what to do.
Someone message Javier, please. Like we've mentioned in past podcast, Nikile, in reality, he's not like a legit number 9. And I think what we've learned in Leon as fans, that we have to be patient with the players. Last season, he barely got any minutes, and COVID happened. So I think now he's barely getting himself back into kind of, a role. Did he set himself up to this like super, Nikile, he scores goals? Yes, but I don't think that is his main, strength per se. I think he does a lot around it, and I think yesterday, he showed that he does. I mean, you see him all over. You see him defending. You see him drawing back. He does a lot of the hard work, and I think that kind of goes underestimated because he doesn't score. And for the record, I said Avion. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, so I'm here to rescue Avion Ramirez because you guys had no faith. Well, but I did. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah,
so.
I think, man, it's the fans' fault. It's not Nick Keeler's fault for being built up so much based on his E-Liga performances. That's the fans' fault. Like, he has nothing. He has absolutely nothing to do with that. And I think he's not a nominal striker. He's not a target man like Gigliotti is. He's not. That's not his game. But he's wreaking havoc all over the field. And I think we've discussed this. I think on the last 2 podcasts that he doesn't get enough respect for that. People see striker. People see him slide in up front, and they expect goals. But that's. I mean, I think you're right, Javier, about the Britos thing. A lot of people are. You're not the only one. A lot of people are starting to compare to Matias Britos. If Jose were here. Or I meant to ask Jose earlier when I was thinking about that. How many goals did Brito score, like total, in all competitions over the course of his Leon career? Probably not very many. I mean, I would say fewer than 20, something like But he's a revered member of that bicampeonato team and the Ascenso, the team that came up from the Ascenso. In spite of that, because of the little things that he does, that the fans in that era knew how to appreciate. More than they seem to want to now. I think that
E-Liga,
it's been a curse for him because he's just been built up onto an irrational pedestal because of how he did in that E-Liga, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I loved him watching him in the E-Liga. I thought that was great, but it's 2 completely different things. I'll say only that for the scoring, the shooting element, I think he's been really unlucky. When you see him shoot, he doesn't have poor form. He gets a lot of pace on his strikes. He's hit the post maybe like 3 times. He's hit it right at the keeper, or the keeper's been just positioned absolutely correctly on a couple of others. I think he's been very unlucky, but I think he's going to find the net at least 2 or 3 times this season. You guys just wait and see.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of faith in Nick Keeler. I do too. You know, it's kind of like we want to see that, from him.
Yeah, I've been one who's been kind of defending him, as we all have, for not scoring but doing other things. But I think, guys, when it comes to the end of the season, people are not going to look back and say, well, he ran this much. They're going to say, how many goals did he score? And if his tally is 0, that's how he's going to be judged. He's going to be judged by how many goals he scored because he is a striker.
Yeah.
Even if we win a title, Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, even if we win a title, it might not be with his goals. It might be with Gigliotti's goals.
What if it's an assist?
But when it comes down to who's going to be, a baja from the club, they might look at him and say, how many goals did he have?
Yeah, because look at Ramos. he scored at least like 3, maybe. I don't even know. But he was sent off. So yeah, you're right. I think that's probably why. Because I mean, as a fan, I'm like, hey man, I appreciate what you're doing. But maybe for him, he's kind of like listening too much to Fútbol Picante, what Héctor Huerta is saying, how es mejor en los videojuegos que in real life, and that kind of would get to you. But because he does leave with a very frustrated face, and I know it's killing him. Because I think before he came to Mexico, didn't he say he was going to score 10 goals? And then someone told him, hey man, it's kind of hard to score 10 goals. And he's like, okay, yeah, because I saw him in Soy Fiera. He did say that. That's right. And
he shot too high.
Yeah, it was too high, and he ended up saying, "Oh, you know what? Never mind. How about 5 or something like that?" But well, yeah, it's definitely one of the things that for sure I think La Directiva looks at in terms of if he's an extranjero and if he's not producing what you're saying goals. Yeah, they might want to look for another option. But he does do a lot of things though, so like hopefully Nacho can be like, "Look, Directiva, let's talk about this." But yeah, I do want him to score.
I need Jose. I need Jose to find that number. I need Jose to find that number of how many goals Brito scored in his Leon career. Yeah,
and he scored some really
in all competitions.
All competitions. I think when he played like a Libertadores with Leon.
We'll get Jose.
My man Jose. I know he's got that. I know he's got that number for me somewhere.
He's doing it right now, bro.
Yes.
Only 31. I can't believe he's still only 31, Britos.
I can go into the list. Right now, if you want.
Peñarol?
He had a rather unceremonious end to his,
he was
his Mexican career.
No, he was in no Peñarol. I remember it was Defensor Sporting.
Oh, he came from Defensor Sporting, but right now.
Yeah. Right now, Peñarol.
Right? Yeah.
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 And he's only, like he said, 31.
He's only 31.
He's only 31. I would like him to come back to Leon. I didn't like how he had this whole love for Puma. Because I didn't like how he had like a whole love for Puma. I'm like, you were bicampeón with Leon, bro. You should love more Leon. So he's like.
Well, I think it was that, but he only spent like not that many seasons here, and he spent more seasons than Pumas too.
Yeah, way more in Pumas.
So that might have something to do with it.
Right. He was bicampeón with Leon.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, he's one of those players, Loboa and Urbano, that I wouldn't mind to see come back. Like, Urbano did his second stint.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's talk about the game.
You got to type, Carlos. I can't hear Kari.
Yeah, you can't hear me. Let's go ahead and talk about the game. So
I'm so sorry, guys.
So I guess we can say we saw two different halves. From what happened first half, kind of confident. Obviously, when we talked about last podcast, we expected this high scoring game, but we also expected a Queretaro that was going to go at it because kind of the momentum that they've been coming with. So versus Leon, I mean, first half, I guess we were pretty confident, except what happened second half. Tom, what do you think happened? From first half to second half to Leon, were you in the same situation like us? Like, Leon's going back to, the kind of overconfident in a way that they're like, oh, we're winning 1-0. Let's kind of lay back and chill. And then until, we get scored on, then the sense of urgency comes back. And then we decide to push and get 2 goals in 4 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's difficult to know. I mean, that Mena goal as well was ridiculous. And I don't know, sometimes when you watch Leon, it's like they're trying to score a perfect goal. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to score goals that are going to make like the highlight reel. And I'd also say that, Queretaro, to be fair to them, a difficult team to play against. I mean, they're ridiculously direct. They don't, I think they had like 32% of the possession over that game. I think they only completed like 200 passes or something. So they're really effective though. So I think they had 6 shots on target. I just think they obviously made this a substitution at half time, and I think they were just a bit more aggressive, Queretaro and Leon. I know the stats say that defensively, that has been the strength this season. But I don't know. I think Queretaro exposed them a little bit, and I don't know. I think this Leon team. I think if you're really aggressive and go after them, then I think the back four, especially the Barrero, Tecillo, and Moreno. I think they're really, really good players, each one of them. But I think there's mistakes in there as well. And I think that Queretaro just really aggressive and direct going against them. And yeah, I think they got a reward. But I think you saw with Leon's reaction as well that when they get it right, I mean, they're such a good team. When they actually they fell behind, and just the way they reacted was was really, really impressive. And yeah, I thought, I think the other thing, just as an aside, is like, I was mentioning some of the stats there. I think what you see with Leon right now, and you don't really see it that often in Liga MX, especially over a kind of, a extended period, is there's a real identity there now, and you can, that Leon are going to take the ball, they're going to play in a certain way, and I think that, I think that's a real positive, something we don't see too often in Liga MX. But it was like I was just talking on the Mexican Soccer Show about kind of Pumas being in first position, and it's like, I think they've drawn against Mazatlan, I think they've drawn against Juarez as well, and it's like, Cruz Azul have lost this season to Atlas. Cruz Azul have lost to was it Queretaro as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, this happens in Liga MX. You're never going to get these absolutely smooth games, and I think that. I think that was an example of this, and I think Queretaro are a really, really tricky team this season. I don't think they're an amazing team or anything like that, but I think they're a tricky team to play against because they're a lot more direct than most others in Liga MX, and they're not bothered about having the ball. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not there to kind of fight possession. They're there to win the ball back and just move it up as quickly as possible.
And I think we saw that in the game against America, because I watched that game, and that's pretty much how they were playing. Just a counterattack off America, very exposed. We go back to the defense of Leon, like we talked about last podcast, on how better the defense is this season compared to last season. And I've mentioned how kind of in the past couple games, we've been kind of playing around Navarro, because obviously you see the line kind of move when Navarro goes up. I mean, Navarro has like another striker up there. It's kind of what, we've kind of lacked a bit. Nico Sosa's not scoring goals. I mean, Puma Gigliotti came to the rescue with the brace. And we also had mentioned in the podcast prior to a couple podcasts ago about hopefully Gigliotti not being another Leo Ramos case. And I think this is not the case. I want to know your thoughts. What did you think about Leo Ramos? And then what did you think about when Gigliotti came? Did you see it as kind of like, okay, we're kind of getting the same player? Or did you feel like Gigliotti would have been a better option than letting go of Ramos too?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a financial aspect as well. I think that Grupo Pachuca wanted to sell Leo Ramos. And from what I heard, they'd agreed a deal with Orlando. I mean, it was a completely done deal. And I think the other side, I think Gigliotti is a short-term solution. I mean, obviously, this is what you want him to do. You want him to come in there and do a job. Would you prefer Macias right now? Then yeah, you know what I mean. You'd obviously prefer Macias in that position, but yeah, I think that's what you want him to do. And I think he's pretty good with his back to goal, and he brings a bit more of a physical presence that if you look at the Leon's kind of forward players, they don't really have apart from that. So I think he's kind of like as like a focal point for the attack. I think Gigliotti will do quite well. But again, I mean, it goes back. I think you need Joel Campbell. When it comes down to the playoffs and stuff like that, I think you need Joel Campbell kind of firing as well. But yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't help. It doesn't harm at all to get a couple of goals. And what was it now? Four goals in for the season for Gigliotti. I mean, it's better than his ratio was certainly to Luca.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think if last night is to be a judge, there's a lot of doubts about what Gigliotti could really do compared to Ramos when he came, and I think he's showing us the best version of himself. He's showing us the maximum possibility. I mean, he's not an world class anymore striker at this age, but I think he's not going to be what he was for Boca Juniors, but he's showing us the best possible version of himself. the best possible scenario for what he can contribute. I don't think Leo Ramos could come in and do what Gigliotti did for us last night, rescuing a match. I just don't see him doing that. He doesn't have that same kind of killer instinct. Also, I mean, Gigliotti has to thank his lucky stars playing on a team with Chapo Montes, who can put a pass on a pinpoint pass for him like that, as nobody did for him in Toluca, really ever. But it's also interesting the way you say about the way Queretaro played us. We've been begging for teams to play us that way, to go at us directly and then leave space in the back for us to exploit on the counter. It's mostly been the team strategy against us, any team strategy against us this season, to just park the bus and close down and not give us any opportunity to do anything and settle for these low-scoring, frustrating, closed-off matches. So what you say is that Querétaro playing that way, if other teams play us that way, that's the way they can really exploit us. We kind of want teams to play us that way so we can kind of be free to play our game. Playing that way, that's how a goal like Mena's happens. I mean, that's a classic Mena goal. I mean, a classic Leon just running roughshod, playing their game, doing what they want to do, running down the field and getting a beautiful goal. As you say, we don't score ugly goals. But this season has been different because of just the way the teams have been playing us. So Querétaro, yes, we haven't seen a team play that dangerously against us, but it also gives us space to operate. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. I was happy to have a team play us that way. I was happy to have a team play us that way because we were able to get into our game more as well. I don't know if that's going to end up hurting us more or harming us more in the long run, but it was refreshing considering the way all the other teams have played us this season. It was refreshing for me anyway to see that.
Yeah, I also think it's refreshing to see two of our goals come off of crosses. I mentioned, I don't know if it was the last podcast, that we're one of the lowest crossing teams in the league. We don't cross, like Tom said. We want to score goals that make highlight reels, and there were two goals specifically to Gigliotti where he scored off of crosses. And so I also mentioned, I think last podcast, where I said that he's a target man. If you give him chances, he's probably going to complete them. And he completed the two chances that he got from those crosses. So that was real good to see. And also the first goal from beautiful cross from Jairo Moreno, which should have been a goal by Navarrito, but I don't know how he hit the goalie instead of putting it in the back of the net.
Gil Alcalá had a pretty good game. I mean, he had a couple of nice saves. So credit to him for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it is refreshing to see Gigliotti put up numbers that we were kind of expected when he first got to Mexico, because like you said, what he did in the Independiente, Colón, Boca, he didn't quite do it in Toluca. And then I feel like with León, it's kind of like it's refreshing for him to play with players like Chapo, like Jairo, like Meneses when he's playing well. But for sure, I think he knows it's one of his last opportunities to kind of show what he's made of. And I think the best thing about yesterday's game, I do agree that when teams play León like that, it kind of does expose a little bit. But I want that to happen because I think the reaction of León is what we want to see. It's what we never saw against LAFC and Conca Champions or Monarcas in last Liguilla. They had no answers for a team that kind of played with more urgency, kind of how we saw Querétaro in the second half. And once that always happens, we always say that León peca de soberbia. And it was kind of refreshing to see something different and also it's because if you guys kind of remember, Kevin Ramirez, who scored the penal, right after he scored the penal, he wanted to say, quería hacer tiempo. You know, he said he was like, and I think that was like, he was distracting himself, because that's kind of where we saw León. They were like, all right, they're going to try to do their hacer tiempo. And I saw León just focus into what they wanted to do. And that's why they reacted really quick. And in 4 minutes, but yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say about yesterday's game. I want to see León have these games where they're down and see how they react, because that's how it's going to be in La Liguilla. We know they can probably qualify and even be super leaders, but that we don't want that anymore. We want to be campeones.
Yeah, no. I think it's. And I think it's a really good point because I don't know. I think these days with Leon, there's no kind of secrets. You know what I mean? Leon have been playing in a certain style for long enough time now under Nacho Ambriz that we know how Leon play. You know, I think they're by far the team with the highest possession per game this season.
Mhm.
Like I think touches on the ball per game, absolutely number one by a distance. You know, it's not a secret. It's not a surprise when you see them top four of the league. In fact, it'd probably be a surprise now if Leon were down in something like eighth. You know, I think that's the respect I think Leon have earned over the last 18 months or so. But I think the big question mark is what you just said there. It's that game against LAFC where it's like, what on earth happened there? You know what I mean? To get, I mean, they deserve that result. You know, they deserve to be defeated. And when you look at, everyone goes on about LAFC, but you look at the quality of players that Leon have got as well. I mean, for me, Jairo Moreno might be the best player in the league. I mean, I think I put on Twitter kind of a few weeks ago, like if there's one player you could put into a mid-table good European league and just be like, yeah, I'll put $100 down. This guy is going to do well. Like it might be him, given his age, given his background. Yeah, Jairo Moreno. Yeah. But I think I'm rambling here. But going back to what you were saying, I mean, I think the 2019, the Clausura loss in the final to Tigres, I was there. They looked absolutely tired. I can't really criticize Leon for narrowly losing against that Tigres team. But then you look at the Apertura and that loss to Morelia, and it's like, what happened there? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it should be a massive issue, but you look to that Morelia game, you look to that game in LAFC, and you think, it's like you're saying in those big, massive games, I think if there is a question mark about this Leon team, it is perhaps that is the question. When it comes to those playoff games, those Liguilla games, I don't know, can Ambriz manage it in the way that kind of you'd want him to?
Yeah, I think a microcosm of that mentality thing we saw last night against Queretaro. Carter, you talk about tale of two halves. I saw three games. I saw the first half and then the two halves of the second half. The first half we completely dominated, I would say. Second half took the foot off the gas, got overconfident, got down, and then there was the recovery. That reaction. We haven't, as good as we've been under Ambriz, we haven't always seen the best response to adverse match conditions. And I don't mean match conditions like the field conditions or the weather. I mean, like what happens in the match to us if we get down in the second half unexpectedly. Like we're not a team that's accustomed to having that happen to us, and so we don't always seem to know how to react. A microcosm of that was last night in Querétaro. If you consider the LAFC tie, the first game was the first half and the second game was the second half. I mean, we got into adverse conditions and had no idea what to do with them. It's a mentality thing at this point. It has nothing to do with talent or ability that we have in droves. It's a mentality thing. So it was encouraging for me to see at least last night in a small sampling of that, being able to come back and having a veteran player like Gigliotti unfazed. I mean, he got two chances when the game was on the line and he put both of them away. And that was an encouraging thing to see. We just need to see, well, the higher intensity the matches get, the more opportunity there is for us to need a late goal to advance or to win or to get points or anything. That's how it's going to be if you want to win a title. The last thing that we need to complete this gran ciclo that Ambriz has put together. So there's just be more matches like that. I almost want to see us go down in more matches. I don't want to see us go down in more matches, but I almost want to see us go down in more matches.
Louis. I was on my edge yelling.
Yeah, but so that we can see how they respond in those conditions. So
like
that
I was
they're
like,
not
despierte, like wake up, like you guys are down. And then the first goal came in, I'm like, okay. And then the second goal, I was like, okay, we're good. Like that was like 4 minutes of my life where I was like, what are we doing? We had a perfect first half. It's all going down the drain. Same thing all over again. Like, yes, but no, because I don't like the suffering that I go through, an emotional roller coaster. because we
But there's
don't we
no
put ourselves
way-
in situations like that.
But there's no way to learn how to get yourself out of those situations if you're not in them. I'm not saying I want to see it happen often. I want to see Leon impose their will as much as humanly possible. But there are going to be those occasions where they need to pull a result out of Lord knows where in the last 20 minutes of a match, and they haven't given us a ton of confidence. Like against LAFC, yeah, they were down 3-0. One goal, they would have passed. You know, they only needed one goal. They only needed one goal, and they still would have passed.
And they couldn't even manage that.
And they couldn't even manage that. So I
Having flashbacks.
I want to see. I guess what I'm saying is when we get in the situation like we did last night, I want to see us be able to do exactly what we did. So and we did last night, and that was an encouraging sign. And I feel like having a guy like Gigliotti on the pitch to get that goal that you, like Boselli always did, like you need a goal. This is the guy who's going to get it for you. I don't know if Gigliotti's in that same class.
And I think it was perfect.
Yeah. I don't know if he's in that
I
same
think it was
class as
perfect for
Boselli.
Gigliotti to be the man that responded, because Campbell tries to be too extra. And I think yesterday, even though it was a surprise for most of us, I think it was the right decision, kind of a wake-up call saying, hey, you need to get yourself, together, because we know what Meneses is capable of. George Campbell, I don't know if it's over his head or something, but it's just like Louis has said, he tries to be too cute about it, and he's not doing what he's supposed to. I mean, we begged, them to buy his card. We need him. We'll show up, and I'm hoping he shows up in the last, part of the season and in Liguilla, because we have a super sub. We've tried him in the 9 role, not really. We kind of came to determination that maybe he is just best as a super sub. But yesterday, I think it was just perfect how Gigliotti kind of was the man that has been putting 110% every single game, and he came up and he showed up and he gave us the win. So, Jose.
Yeah, I had flashes. I had flashes to Boselli, like getting that goal that we absolutely needed. Like none of other players haven't been able to do.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Jose, you want to say something?
I think they're going to need. I think they're going to need all. I think they're going to need all of them. Meneses, Joel Campbell. Leon are going to win the title. All those guys have got to be, because like the thing that I said right at the start. I think you look at that Leon bench, and it wasn't deep at all. The other, against Queretaro. I mean, I think that would be an issue. And to be honest with Gigliotti, I think under different circumstances he wouldn't have been brought in. I just think the economies of the teams right now are just completely different than they would have been in a normal summer transfer window. And I think the ownerships that have more than one club suffer double. Because you got to pay the players' wages. You got to, I think Atlas and Santos are suffering because of that as well. And then you look at Leon and Pachuca, and it's doubly as hard to pay the wages. I mean, when your income's kind of been slashed. So I think it's something to keep into mind. And like Gary was saying, then I think re-signing Joel Campbell was the big bit of business for the transfer window. But I think in an ideal world, maybe it wouldn't have been Gigliotti coming in. But yeah. But yeah, like someone else said there, it's his kind of last chance for him. I mean, he's come into a club that he knows can be challenging for the title. I mean, much more than Toluca. He's got a chance of kind of not necessarily ending his career, but maybe going back to Argentina with a kind of title in the bag. And I think that and he kind of knows that he's going to start games, and that must be kind of motivating for him as well as a 33-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go to individual performance reviews before moving on. So let's go with Pedro Aquino. Performance review 1 to 10. Anybody want to go first?
He's been good. He's been holding it down in the midfield so much that he's basically disappeared Ivan Rodriguez, who was titular basically the whole season. So I expect him to continue to play at a high level. I expect him to play against Pumas at a high level. And I'm going to go with a 9. He did pretty well.
Okay. Pedro Aquino, 9. Anybody else?
He was an aggressor. He really got in some of those guys, young Queretaro guys' heads last night, I feel, with his disruptiveness. It'd be nice if he could do that without getting in the book, without getting cards. But But I feel like that's a really valuable asset that he has. They were annoyed with him, and I think he got in some of their heads.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love Pedro Aquino. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Just love how aggressive he is. And the only thing is, it's a bit of a shame that, like you said there, Ivan Rodriguez isn't starting, because I really like him as well. And I think he'd be, if he was playing regular for Leon, I think he might be a lot closer to the national team right now, because I think potentially he's got the potential to win. I'm not saying be a starter for the national team, but win some caps, and especially when you've got these kind of Liga MX squads, be involved. And I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Ambriz finds a way of trying to get both of them in the team. I know he's experimented with it, but kind of those two as the kind of sixes, and then maybe even in Chapito Montes kind of in a floating role, and then maybe only one striker. I don't know. I'm sure it's gonna go through Nacho Ambriz's head as kind of the season moves on, especially when when you're playing those Liguilla games in the Azteca, or playing away. Maybe that might be an option as well.
Yeah.
Anybody
We're giving Aquino's right. I'm gonna give him a 9, because you guys already said what I was gonna say. He was amazing, and I kind of just wish he could play like that almost every time, right? In every aspect, he has that una mentalidad de líder. I think he's very aggressive, and that's exactly what we need in that position. He did really good, and I also like Ivan Rodriguez, but I always felt that. And yeah, Ivan Rodriguez is young, and you kind of want to see him grow even more as a player. But I just think Aquino has world-class potential, and you kind of expect this from him. And yeah, he was great. So a 9.
Okay. So I would have given a 9. It's said because he got a yellow. I'll go with an 8.5. So I gotta be different. I can't be like everyone else. Gotta spice it up a little. I mean, the fact that we didn't really have to talk about him means that he really had a really good game, and I actually quite like the fact that he had the long shot trying to like surprise Alcalá, which that's we don't see much of that from him, and I would like to see more long shots from outside the area from him. But yeah, I mean he's been solid, and unfortunately for Ivan Rodriguez, maybe too solid. And yeah, I mean in regards to Ivan Rodriguez, I hope Ambriz can somehow balance like their like the game time that he gives them, but I find it hard right now because like you don't want to take it out. Like if he's just playing so good right now, then so it's that's gonna be a tough one for Ambriz going forward. Other than that, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, Berkino had 95.7% of accurate passes, so if we're not talking about him, then he must be doing something good. So let's move on because we have a couple other things and time has gone by. Tom, I want to ask you something. So we had a segment prior to a podcast regarding a certain player, and we talked about this in like 2 podcasts ago. It was a comment by Hera Borghetti. No. Now I want to hear what you think. So, do you think
what about Landon
misses
Donovan?
who more? No. Do you think JJ Macias misses Leon, or Leon misses JJ Macias?
Tough question.
I did agree with Borghetti. I did agree with what he said. I mean, I think Macias has scored a couple in the last couple of weeks, but if you put Macias in this Leon team, I think he shines a lot more than he does in that Chivas team. I mean, I think the first few games of the season for Macias, he was just like, I think he missed a penalty early on. He missed a couple of chances, but I thought he was playing okay, to be honest. But he was just like, he just wasn't getting the ball. He wasn't getting those chances in front of goals. So I think that obviously in this Leon team, it's just much better set up for a number 9. I think we're seeing with Gigliotti as well. No, I mean he's just a lot better place to score more goals in the Leon team under Ambris than at Chivas wherever he is. And for someone like Macias who is looking to move on to Europe, then I think it's beneficial for him to play. It would have been beneficial for him to still be at Leon, but obviously he wanted to go back to Chivas, and he's done some kind of deal with Amari Vergara, and hopefully he's allowed to leave for Europe. But yeah, it's a shame they couldn't win that title with him, because it was, I don't know, I was surprised when he went to Leon that he started so quickly and so regularly. But to be fair to him, he did prove himself regularly. But yeah, I mean I don't know. That's the thing with this Leon team that I probably said a couple of times tonight. You know what you're getting, and I think when players go there, they know what they're getting, and I think it's such a massive benefit for a team when you're kind of recruiting as well. To compare to someone like Chivas, where they've already swapped the manager, and you've had like a 4 or 5 month break or whatever, and you think, you can't swap your manager after a few games because there's been this break, because there's players that have got coronavirus, like the managers had coronavirus as well. It's like you can't be swapping them, but then they swap them, you know what I mean? And then you're playing with Vucitic, who's obviously a bit more of a counter-attacking style, and then maybe that doesn't suit Macias as well as kind of a possession-dominated side like Leon would do. So yeah, I'd say that he probably misses Leon more.
Definitely, even if he doesn't win.
I think you could sack the manager. We're not the biggest Luis Fernando Tena fans over here in the Leon world. I think we understand why they sacked him. But no, I just get the feeling Macias wanted to go back to Chivas because he thought he'd be more visible there, no matter what he did. That they would pay more attention to him because he was in a quote unquote bigger club, and I think that was a mistake on his part. I think he's suffering from now.
Also, it was because he felt that by Leon buying Macias, they were going to sell him even more expensive to Europe, and then no team would buy him that way. It would take him longer to get to Europe. Yeah. That's another reason why. That's what he said, right? It makes sense in a way.
It does.
Yeah, I don't know how much I buy that, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how much I buy that either, because you're with Grupo Pachuca, who has a history of sending players to Europe.
Really well, right?
Yeah.
I think they're like the best when it comes to doing that. So yeah, that's another thing when I was kind of like, you could say that, but is that really why you're going to go back to Chivas? Independently why he did go back, I think now we're seeing that he's not the same Macias. If he was even going to be the Macias that cost what he cost today, it was because he was with a group of players in Leon that made him become that player. They gave him those opportunities at least. I'm not saying that he's not a quality player, but just with Chivas, you're kind of seeing that system is not really helping him and kind of shine for him to really do what he wants to do, which is to go to Europe. And
Yes. Well, let's move on. Someone let Javier know that his segment's coming up, the Once Upon a Time. Javier, are you ready? Someone tell him.
Javier.
Yeah.
Your segment's coming up.
Born ready.
Okay, let's cue the clip.
Okay, so today on Once Upon a Time in Leon history, I will be going back 25 years into the past in la temporada 1994-1995. Back then, Leon and Pumas were in the same group 3, and back then there used to be these groups where the top 2 teams in those 4 groups will qualify directly to La Liguilla, but the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seed would qualify to un repechaje. And well, yeah, pretty much there you go. El gol de Antonio Sancho, ex-capitán de Tigres and the Pumas. This is the 1994-1995 season. It was a very important game because both would end up qualifying as a 9th and 10th seed. They didn't know that at this moment, but they had to win the game. And here you go. You see un golazo de Gerardo Reynoso, el argentino, ex-Independiente, ex-River, making this a 1-1 game. Golazo. But then what can we say about this next goal? World-class goal. de Gustavo de Sotti. You're going to see him right now. There you go. Gustavo de Sotti, el mundialista de Italia 90, ex compañero de Maradona, de Canigia, scoring the 2-1 golazo. But then, of course, Puma was a better team that evening. They dominated and they really had a better reaction. Here, con un gol. Yep, Medina. Eduardo Medina. And therefore, there was 2-2. And then I would have never expected this, but then who scores who to take the lead for Pumas? There you go. El Chiquis Garcia, el yerno de Ricardo Antonio Lavolpe. Look at that. I would have never thought. They take a 3-2 lead. But like I said, it was a very important game for both Leon and Pumas. They knew they had to qualify to el repechaje. And at the last minutes of the game, Leon manages to tie the game 3-3. And like I said, it was very important because both teams ended up obtaining exactly 50 points. They ended up being the 9th and 10th seed. They would go on to play el repechaje. Unfortunately, it didn't go so well for them. Tigres beat Leon. By the way, Tigres había descendido, but they still qualified to el repechaje, and they ended up eliminating Leon. And Pumas loses to América, el América de Leo Benhacker, which always sucks for Pumas to lose to América. But yeah, that was a very important game because with that tie, they qualified to el repechaje. Like I said, they both lose. Esa temporada, Necaxa faces Cruz Azul, where Necaxa becomes campeón, and then the next season they become bicampeones. And then coincidentally, the next two bicampeones in history, in torneos cortos, would be Pumas and Leon. But yeah, that was pretty much my segment. I didn't want to go too far.
Nice.
But this time, look, nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Great
Heard
job,
you.
Javier.
Your Kari, and
Someone needs to write a book on the changes in the league, Mexican league format, no? So like the like the number 9 and 10 going to the repechaje and you know, Pumas get relegated but make the playoffs, and
Tigres got relegated and they still made the playoffs. I think our first Balboa was in that game. I'm pretty sure he was in that season.
Dorados did the same, no? Dorados did the same with Guardiola, and Guardiola was just like, what kind of system is this? We made the playoffs and we're going down.
Yeah, you're relegated.
All right, boys and girls. All right, I'm going. Thanks for the invite.
All right, Tom.
Thanks for the invite. Keep up the good work.
Peace.
See you later.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye. Thank you for coming.
And there was 5. Thank you, Javier. Good job. Someone tell him good job. Sign language. Jose, are you ready for your stats?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Let's go.
So let's see. I kind of went a little bit different this time. So I wanted, I was just wondering, I wonder how we did in the last 3 seasons, like so far in the primeras 10 jornadas. So that's what I did. So the first one, I was just comparing the Apertura, was it? No, Clausura 2019 versus the Guardianes. So I'm just comparing, contrasting like how we done this season compared to the previous 3 seasons. This is the first one. Okay, so obviously, as expected, goals are not what Leon has been about this season. We have only scored 12 goals as opposed to back in the Clausura 2019. We scored 23 goals. And when it comes to goals conceded, we conceded 7 goals. In that, back in the Clausura 2019, we only conceded 6, but we're not too far off. We're just like 1 goal off. When it comes to the shutouts, again, we're kind of close too. So in Guardianes, we have 5 shutouts, and in Clausura 2019, we had 6 shutouts. So it's nice to know that there's something very similar to the Clausura 2019. When it comes to the assists, we had 8 assists this season. Back in the Clausura 2019, you can't compare, but 17 assists. And when it comes to the points, though, it's kind of close. Like it's 21 points. We're in third place right now, and in the Clausura 2019, we were 23 points, first place, just 2 points off from back then. Wings in this season, we have 6 wins, three draws, 1 loss. Back in the Clausura 2019, 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. So one less win than then, but then 1 more draw. But losses, we have the same amount of losses. So that's a good sign. Top scorers, and Guardianes is Gigliotti with 4, Mena 3, Navarro 2, Montes with 1, Jairo with 1. Top 5 scorers for the Clausura 2019, Mena with 9, Macias with 5, Angulo with 2, Walter Gonzalez with 1, Jairo with 1. Top 5 assist leaders from the Guardianes, Montes with 2, Navarro with 2, Avion Ramirez with 1, Mena 1, Meneses 1. Then from the Clausura 2019, Mena 7, a lot. He did a lot more work back then. Montes 2, Meneses 2, Campbell 1, and then Diaz Price 1. Now going to the next season to compare the Apertura 2019 versus the Guardianes. You can see that, I mean, in terms of goals, it's, as expected, it's almost double. 12 goals this season versus 23 goals in the Clausura. Wait, is it the Clausura? Yeah, Clausura 2020. Actually, you know what? Sorry, I meant the Apertura because I just hit the Clausura. I skipped one.
I don't think you
Or
sent me the other one. I think you sent me 2 of the same.
Did I mistype it? I think I did.
Yes.
Here, let me just see which one it was really quick. Because I think I mistyped but I did change the.
You can go with the other one while I get the other one.
Okay. Oh no, I think I did actually. I do see it here. It's AP 2019. Anyway, if you want, just do the other one, but I send it, I believe. I'll send it right now again. Just do the 2020.
Do you want to go with another one while I get it up?
2019. Yeah.
There you go.
That's fine. So this season compared to last season, it's still similar. 12 goals versus 23 goals, still almost double. When it comes to the goals conceded, though, we're still doing we were very solid. 7 goals conceded versus 14 last season, 5 shutouts, and 1 shutout for last season. Still like in the Apertura, like around the Apertura numbers with the 5 shutouts. Then we have ASS for this season, and then compared to last season, 14. Then points, 21 points this season. We're in third. Then last season, the same amount of points, but we were actually on second. Then 6 wins this season compared to 7 wins, 1 off, 3 draws, 0 draws last season, 1 loss this season, and then last season we have 3 losses. So I mean that I think we're doing pretty solid. So that's then Gigliotti again 4 goals, Mena 3, Navarro 2, Montes 1, Nujari 1. Then last season Mena was the top scorer with 8 goals, Meneses with 4, Ramos with 3, Montes 2, Sosa 2. Then the assist leaders is still last season, and this is the same 1. Montes is just 1 assist off from last season with 2. Navarro 2, and then Ramos last season was their second top assist leader. Sosa with Ismael Sosa with 2 goals, Mena with 1, Jairo with 1 last season. And I think that's it, because everything else is
I have
the
your
same.
team.
Then for AP19, as expected, with all 3 seasons, last 3 seasons, the when it comes to scoring, it's more than double. But there's no surprise there. But when it comes to conceding goals, though, we're pretty solid. That's 7 conceded, and then on Apertura 2018, 14 conceded, 5 shutouts this season, and then the Apertura 2019, 2, and 8 assists this season, and 14 that season. 21 points this season. We're in third, and on the Apertura 2019, we're 19 points on third. So we had less points, but we were on the same place. 6 wins this season versus 5. We actually have 1 more than the Apertura 2019. 3 draws, 4 draws in the Apertura 19. So we actually had 1 draw less than back in the AP 2019, and then 1 loss. That's still the same. Then, as I mentioned, top scorers for the season: Gigliotti 4, Mena 3, Navarro 2, Montes 1, Jairo 1. Then back in the AP 2019, Macias 6, Mena 6, Sosa 5, Ramos 2, Jairo 1. Then top assists leaders: Montes 2, Navarro 2, Ramirez 1, Mena 1, Meneses 1. Montes still at the top of the list with 4 in the AP 2019. So he's been the top assist leader for the last 3 seasons and the first 10 match days. Sosa with 2, Macias with 2, Navarro with 2, same as this season, and Campbell with 1. And that's it for that one. And I didn't have time because I kind of got held up with the other ones, with the other stats. But so our record versus Pumas in the last 9 matches, we have 5 wins, 0 draws, 4 losses, 18 goals in favor, 14 against, and plus 4 goal differential. So it's gonna be a pretty tight game. So it should be a fun one, definitely.
It should be, and it will be if we win, for sure. Thank
Yes.
you, Jose, for all those stats, kind of comparing a side by side up to how we are now, especially the record versus Pumas. I think it's the most attractive game of the next jornada. So that'll be a very good Monday night football. Let's go with Louis. You ready, Louis?
Sure.
Let's do it. I feel like after the video plays, you have to go like this.
So,
You can kind of match.
So I've seen 10 Leon Pumas matches, 6 in Leon, 4 at Estadio Olímpico Universitario, Ciudad Universitaria, 9 Liga matches, and 1 Copa quarterfinal, which ended in a penalty shootout, which was one of Pedro Aquino's finest moments as a member of the club, scoring the winning PK in that shootout. That was one of my favorite Leon Pumas games. But in terms of the visits to Estadio Olímpico Universitario, let me just say that it's a good thing most of them have been Leon wins in recent years, because I cannot stand that stadium. It's my least favorite stadium in the entire Liga MX, and I have no problem saying
Why
that.
though? Why?
The sightlines are terrible. Yeah, that stadium was never intended to host Primera División football. It was just not. It was not conceived for that. And when the Olympics finished, it was never really reconfigured for that, because it has many other uses. It's still used a lot for athletics, and the Pumas college football, American football team uses it for their games too. There's just a lot of stuff working against it. For
isn't it like a UNESCO something?
Yeah, that's the problem. They can't do anything to it because it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but not because of the interior. The interior is awful. Yes. It's because of the stone artwork that's outside the stadium, like on the exterior, which admittedly is cool looking. But in terms of a place to go see a game, and it has zero amenities, none whatsoever, and no seats. I mean, you sit on these awful concrete benches that are they're part of the structure. They're not even, there's nothing you can, to change the anything about that stadium would be, I mean, you'd just be better off knocking down the whole crater and putting in something completely new. The field, or the first rows of seats are sunken below the pitch, like several feet. And so there are no good sight lines on the first level. The only good seats are on the second level. The more expensive seats, strangely, are on the upper level, because that's where you can kind of sort of see the game okay. If you're on the sidelines, if you're in the end zones, which I was the very first time I went, because curiously I was told if they see you wearing gear from the visiting team, they will, no matter where you bought your ticket, they'll send you to the visiting fan section, because the Rebel, the supporters group for Pumas, is known as one of the most aggressive in Mexican soccer traditionally, which is strange because they're also known as the team with the most family atmosphere for matches, which is part of the reason their home games are usually on Sundays at noon, which is another thing altogether. What a terrible time for a game in a stadium where there's no shade of any kind. You're left
like
you're left to your
of the pole.
Yeah, you're left to your own to jugarse la suerte under the noon sun in Mexico City, which is just oftentimes brutal at the time of the game. I don't know. There are other stadiums that are pretty low on the list. Like, I didn't like the Juarez Stadium at all. This first time that I went, that was a pretty bad place. There's another Olímpico Stadium, which is a bad place to watch a game. But that one has less pressure to be a good place to watch a game because it has no history. Like the Estadio Olímpico Universitario is a historic venue in Mexico, and when you get there and you watch the game, especially if you're in the cabeceras and not on the sidelines, you can't see anything. You feel like you're watching the game from an airplane. You're so far away from the action. But luckily, 3 out of the 4 games that I've been to there have been Leon wins. And the last one was come from behind affair, where Carlos Gonzalez scored almost very early on. Macias tied it up almost right away, and then Tecillo had a lucky ball fall his way to score the game winner in the second half, which was great because all the Pumas fans around me. Once I realized that wasn't true, that you can go sit in the stadium anywhere you want. I mean, as long as you have a jacket that covers up your jersey when you walk in, they're not going to say anything to you. You can sit wherever you want. And so all the Pumas fans around me, they were like, ha 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 ha, and then I was like, ha 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 ha. So I've had a lot of decent memories. Probably the best though was when we were playing with 10 men 2 matches ago when we played there during the 12 wins. and Vinicio Angulo, one of the two Vinicio Angulo goals that you just mentioned, Jose, came at the end of the game. We were playing with 10 men, and he got on a breakaway and scored the goal that kind of broke the hearts of all took away all the last hope that any Pumas fan might have had of conserving their Invicto. They had a pretty extensive Invicto in home games at that point, which we completely destroyed. So that was probably my favorite of the four that I've been to. Only one of them was at night in 2017 after the earthquake in Mexico City, which postponed the. Man, if only we knew what postponing jornadas really meant at that point. But it was pretty crazy. They postponed the jornada, and it got rescheduled. And since it was rescheduled, it couldn't be played at its normal time, Sunday at noon. So they did a midweek night game.
Yeah, night game.
That was the only one that was a night game. But good memories of the results. Never good memories of the actual stadium experience, because I'm putting it out here if there are any Puma fans listening. The stadium experience for Pumas home games is the worst in Liga MX, and it's not particularly close. But there you have it.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. Put it like a disclaimer. Like, the words.
It's gonna be
right.
Watch. It's gonna be 20.
I don't want to get beat up.
It's gonna be 2015. Pumas is gonna be playing in the Estadio Universitario still.
Yeah.
Well, next time Luis goes to Seoul, they're gonna be like, "What's up, Fito Viajero?" Talking about Rebel's gonna be right there.
No, the Rebel goes to Pepetero. I always go to Palomar, other side, as far away from them as possible. Yeah,
we're gonna go after you, like,
because that's the weird place where usually the supporters group is in one of the cabeceras, but the Rebel is on the sidelines at Seoul. It's kind of weird. That's the only place where it's like that I've seen. Yeah. But they have a whole section that's just for them. It's called Pepetero. So if you're a visiting fan, that's the one place you'd never go. Yeah, you can go to either Cabecera or on the Palomar side, but never behind the benches, but never to the Pepetero side. Yeah.
All right.
Well then, awesome. Thank you, Louis. Let's go straight into predictions. Let's go with Jose. Your prediction.
Oh, I knew it. I wasn't ready either. Let's see.
Wait, what's going on? Is
Guys.
it prediction time?
Yeah, it's prediction time.
Yes.
Oh,
I
didn't even see.
my mind is blank. So tell me who we're playing again. Pumas, right?
Look on your screen.
On the screen. You know who we're playing, Jose.
Just kidding. Okay.
You want to pass?
Honestly, I think it's gonna be one of those high scoring games. I'm gonna go. I hope it's not like that, but 3-2 win for now. It's gonna be a hard one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carlos.
Man, two of the best teams that are playing right now in the league. They're both really good teams. Pumas, actually, based on the stats, they actually don't score very much when they're on the road. And I have the stats here. They have a +2 goal difference, 66% effective when they're away. They do have 2 wins and 2 draws, but no losses away. So I guess that's the negative part. But I think we're going to hand them their first loss. I think that their Invicto is going to expire. So I'm going to say 2-1 Leon.
2-1. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone tell Javier to go next.
Me?
Javier, go ahead.
Okay,
Yep.
I understood that, Kari. Look, I'm gonna say before, and hopefully no one takes it the wrong way, but I wanted Pumas to win all of these weeks. I wanted them to continue their Invicto because I'm like, yeah, good job. The only reason why I wanted that to happen was because I had faith that León was going to take that invicto. And there's like no other way to make a statement. I think León is in the etapas finales del torneo, and they have to make these, like Querétaro. If they would have tied, man, it would have been like, people wouldn't keep putting León as their favorite. And I think if we beat Pumas and then America, you know, it's kind of like who are like in the top four, right? That would make a big statement. And I think what I want right now is for people to keep talking about León and Fútbol Picante. So I don't want León just to win. I want it to be like a 2-3-0. And I know it's hard and it's crazy, but that's what I want. You know, I want it to be like, it wasn't just, I don't want it to be like they beat León. They beat
hope
Pumas.
you're right, though.
Yeah. Look, it's just a prediction. You know, if I was to bet, I'll be like
Be
2-2.
realistic.
Yeah. No, there's two things, right? Prediction and then there's a bet. You know, like if I could bet 2-2.
Que te escuche Dios, Javier.
Yeah, because in this liga, there's no such thing as being realistic. You never know what's going to happen. You really never know. Like, be realistic. Cruz Azul can beat León, but they lose to Atlas.
That will make my day, Javier, if they win 3-0.
No, because what I wanted, I don't want it to be like a 1-1 or 2-1, or I want it to be 3-0, contundente. León beats Pumas.
Okay.
Is it realistic? Probably not, but that's just gonna be my prediction. 3-0.
All right.
3-0. Louis.
I think there's a few things to consider here. I think over the course of León's good run with Ambriz over the last year and a half, they've faced a lot of teams with important streaks or with invictos, or I mean, they just ended a fairly sizable run for Querétaro of not having lost at home. In a Pumas game in Seoul, the time before last, part of our 12 victories, Pumas had, as I mentioned in my segment, they had a very long run of not having lost at home that we ended. We had zero fear of ending important streaks for teams over this last year and a half that we've played. There's always been some kind of streak, and we've never had a problem going in, taking care of business and breaking hearts. I don't see why this time will be any different. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go with a 2-1 as well. I do think we end the streak. I do think I do think Pumas comes crashing down to earth a little bit with their first loss. Other thing to consider is Pumas hasn't really played anybody. Who has Pumas played over the course of this Invicto? They haven't really played anybody. Their biggest match was probably against Tigres, but this is not the same Tigres of old. And they only got a draw out of that match, and it was a draw they had to rescue at the last minute. They don't no da miedo. I'm not afraid of Pumas. They've also depended on a lot of genialidades, a lot of goals from outside the area that I don't expect León to concede in order for them to conserve this record that they have going. And I think León's going to take care of business at home. They're going to get a win. It's going to be a close win. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a 3-0. I'm sorry, Javier. It's not going to be that kind of game. I don't think expect it particularly high scoring in general. Like Jose says, I think it's going to be a 2-1. It's just interesting. This is not the first time that León and Pumas have had to medirse in Estadio León, both being really at the top of the table. I remember in Apertura 2015, the last time Pumas made a final, and the two were both I believe it was 1-2. At that time, and they squared off, and Pumas came into Estadio León and beat us 3-1. I still remember that game, how bitter I felt after that. So I think in this case, León takes care of it. That was a better Pumas team than the one that's coming in now, and I think this is a better León team than the one that played then. I think León takes care of business, but it's going to be 2-1. 2-1.
Okay, Louis said 2-1. I'm gonna go with the 3-1. It's gonna be a good game. Like I go with Louis. I'm not really afraid of Pumas. I think Pumas never has made me afraid of them season by season. They have this like hype, and then they slowly sink kind of to realism. So could this be the case? Sure, why not? Unless otherwise, especially when they play Liguillas, it just comes crashing down. Angel Jonathan gave us a prediction. He said 2-1 León. It'll be a close but good game. Puma, Gigliotti, and Sosa. I mean, on SofaScore, Sosa and Gigliotti had the highest rating. So I mean, we've said it. I think I don't think was it Jose or someone else that gave the stat last pod about how they have the most completed passes. I mean, that's just it is what it is. So that's gonna be a good game. So yeah. Right before we go, we're gonna just play a clip because, as you know, you guys can definitely follow us on all social medias. Twitter, yes, we are on. Obviously YouTube, because if you're watching through YouTube. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Club Leon EN, as you can see, has made a website where you can watch everything and just know everything, the news of Club Leon in English. So that is something awesome that Carlos has came up with, and let's just go ahead and do the little promo for e.com.
Sweet.
You go to cluben.com and it's going to take you to the main website. And as you can see, you have all the next schedule of the upcoming games, everything you need to know in Club Leon in news. And you can definitely find our podcast as well under the tab, The Lions Den Podcast. You can watch every episode, wherever you choose, media-wise. You click it, and you have the option of listening on Spotify or watch it on YouTube.
Ooh.
Yes. Awesome.
And you can scan
There's
the
also
QR code.
There's also a couple of other pages. We have the standings, obviously the current standings, schedule. That's kept up to date. I actually want to make a small feature where you can download the schedule as a PDF, like if you want to keep it on your desktop or you want to download it to your mobile. We also have a stats page, which I presented to Jose, I think it was last week. Just basic stats based on the standings. I made it look really pretty for him. But as we progress throughout the season, we're going to add more stats, and then hopefully by next season we'll have a bunch more stats so that we can generate stats based on different jornadas or different seasons. And then obviously the podcast page, which is the biggest page.
Awesome. So you guys can definitely follow that. We thank everybody that watched us through YouTube and Periscope as we are live streaming on both streams. Don't forget to catch next Monday Night's Futbol, Leon versus Pumas, right down on your screen, 9 p.m. Central. Should be a good game. Follow us if you want. It's going to keep updated on what's going on live. If you're not able to catch it, make sure to follow Club Leon English. Just podcasting, tweeting throughout the game, showing you all the goals and videos to keep you updated. So we thank Tom Marshall for joining us on this episode. He had to take off a little bit early, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Lots of good content. Lots to talk about the games, history segments, travel, stats, everything for you that you need to know supporting Leon. This was episode 46, La Remontada Precisa, because that's what Leon did, and we probably expect, as Louis said, probably more of this, but hopefully in the end we get a good result. So
Bye.
We're out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.